Wonderful. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us this evening for Accessibility and Inclusion in the Theater Education Classroom. I'm Alexis Truitt, the Managing Director of AATE, and I have the honor and privilege to welcome Fran Sillau and Susan Loesl to teach this webinar. Just a few logistical things first. For those who are not muted, if you could go ahead and mute yourselves to avoid any ambient noise. There will be opportunities for us to have discussions, and then we can open up our mics. But for the moment, if we could just make sure the little red microphone icon is on, that would be great. As I said, this is going to be recorded, and so will be available for you guys to view again later, and for anyone who missed this go-around to catch up and see this wonderful workshop. Having said all that, I will now turn it over to you, Fran and Sue, to kick us off.
Thank you, Alexis. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to start by thanking everybody for taking your time on your holiday. I'm here. We wanted to start with a question, and we're going to kind of popcorn this. In one word, describe a thought you had about. Who wants to go first? I'm going to mute myself.
Exciting. Needed. Everyone.
Dynamic.
Challenging. Ah, foundational. Excellent. Universal.
Universal. Love it. It can be complicated, Emily. Very true.
Rich.
I love that word rich. And I don't mean money. Oh, I love that too. Fantastic. Any others? All right, Alexis, you can advance to the next slide. Rewarding, very true. All right, so we're going to explore this. We understand that every human on this webinar tonight thinks about theater making and enters theater making from different ways. Some of us work in public, private educational settings, in colleges, and some of us work at regional theaters. So we understand that all of this is universal and has many different access points. But we all have to start with some sort of framework. So when we talk about doing a play tonight, we're going to start with a story that everybody knows. Story of the Three Little Pigs. We don't know if you'll ever produce it. We all know it, and we can start from someplace. And if anybody doesn't know the Three Little Pigs, we'll just do a quick review. Three pigs, building houses. They go out on their own. One builds a house made of straw, one builds a house made of sticks, one builds a house made of bricks. And the big bad wolf comes, tries to blow it all down. They blow down the first two, the sticks and the straw, and they don't blow down the bricks. And there are all sorts of variations on this, but we'll use that to sort of begin our time together. So if you're having auditions and for a play, we believe it's really important to have a conversation with the individual or their caregiver when possible about what that means to be in a play, and ask the individual why they want to do it, what excites them. People say they like the idea of being a star, and I kind of bring that down to a level of how that's important to work together and how to create ensembles together, but it's important to know why they want to be a part of it. And it's important for the director and the team to share a little bit about their vision and the story that we're going to tell. And so I think that's also important to lay out for the individual, not only what they want to do, but what the story is and what the process looks like in creating it. Because we all know when we enter something for the first time, especially playmaking, as we've seen versions of Glee on television or television shows, and they all kind of glamorize it and romanticize it without putting the work into it. And so we want to make sure that they understand what goes on. And then get an idea from the individual, the caregiver, what the reading level is. Now, we understand that reading is, especially if you're doing a scripted piece, is real important. But it can also be something that it's a barrier that can be knocked down. We can find ways to create opportunities for them to improv or creative drama their work. We can create other ways to do it. Yes, we can share the PowerPoint. You can advance, Alexis. One. All right. We will be able to before audition, if there's something to get engaging about what they can do reading wise, ask them if they like to read or what they're reading now, or if they have a Kindle, or some sort of device that they read upon. So if you are doing reading auditions, you can always large print or create other avenues to access. And then you can also find ways to show them how to assess their skills without worrying about reading. Maybe taking the story and having them act it out in their own words, or giving them words and having them emotions that belong to those words and characters, just to get an idea of where they want to go with it or what their strengths are. And that's really important. We want to highlight their strengths and use them and not worry so much about the weaknesses, because we've all got those weaknesses, right? And I don't even like to call them weaknesses. I just like to call them things that we need work on or need help with. We've all got that.
And sometimes, as a note,
and we want
in there about the reading thing, sometimes the individuals might use like a color overlay or might use highlighter tape or something to cover over and just kind of minimize the text that they're reading, because sometimes it can be too overwhelming just to read a straight text without some support that way. So I might even check in about not only what are they reading, but how are they reading it.
That's important. And also the idea, we've all worked with students in scripted pieces or individuals where they didn't show us what they really could do in a cold reading. So giving them opportunities to take it home, look at it, like I say, act it out in different ways can really help give you an idea of what someone can do. You may advance, Alexis. So after the meeting is over, I want to follow up and think about how the best way is that you could utilize this student. In terms of the pigs, if you were able to cast this person, if you say you're doing 3 pigs differently and you've got 6 pigs, or you create pig families, and you could cast this person in a family of pigs where they could in groups or have individual phrases within things but are always with buddies. That's one way to do it. You got to keep in mind that they don't always need to be the lead character. And this is what I want to caveat. I think when someone enters theater for the first time, if it's a story that they're familiar with, they might see themselves in the lead character. We as theater creators and directors know that they might shine in a character that isn't a lead character. So we want to be able to outline for them all of the characters and what the strengths and strengths of those characters are, and make them know that they may not be the lead character, and that's fine, because you can't do a whole if everybody's playing the one pig or the big bad wolf. I like to equate this. I'm not a sports person, but we know that sports are part of our culture, and I say that we can't all have the ball at the same time. There has to be someone to help dribble and get the ball down the court to get it to the person who's going to make the basket. And I think everyone can sort of understand that sports analogy. So I use that to make people understand that we can all have a part in it, even if we're not the named character in the title of our piece. But also keep in mind, as a theater maker, we don't have to just utilize individuals with disabilities in walk-on roles or add-on characters. We can put them in roles that are supporting or featured and help them shine. They could be the mom or the dad that sends the pig away to build a house on their own, and they have a moment. They're not on stage all the time, but when they're there, they're confident, and we can help them shine. And then we can also offer the individual a few lines to say, but I think it's also important, especially in high schools where actors sometimes are also doing some of the building. We're going to find ways for them to really work on the technical side of theater in ways that they can be successful, because those are things that they don't see. They're definitely a part of theater, and that could be a real job or occupation for them, as well as acting. But we all know the more that we do, or the more that we can do, the more opportunities we have to work in the world, and that's important.
Okay, do you guys, at this point, do you have any questions or comments about what we've discussed so far?
I think a lot of what you just said applies to all students, really.
True.
And I think that's good to know and to realize that individuals with disabilities are like all students, and we all have a disability. We all have thing that we need help with, or something that makes us different. But that difference also makes us unique. Anybody else have a thought? No thoughts off limits.
Okay, next slide, Alexis.
Yes. So during auditions, I think I mentioned this, but we all realize that cold readings aren't always the best way to utilize what people know. So I like to, if I have a student that I know has a documented disability, I like to identify 3 ways to help them see the character. I might have a call and response where I say a line, you huff and you puff and you blow the house down, and I might have them say it with 3 different emotions: happy, sad, scared, or trepidatious. And then I might have them do it just in pantomime, with no words, just emotions or actions. And then I would also have them act with a partner to see how they interact with a partner. Maybe doing 1-word scenes. Hi, how are you today? Just to sort of see how they can take directions. We hope, I had a colleague once who said, when I see somebody and I start with them, they may be an acorn, but when I look at them, I see an oak tree. And when I see somebody at auditions, I want to be able to see something that I can work with and that can grow. We really would rather not have someone that gives us the same performance at auditions that they do an opening night. So I want to know how I can help them grow, and that's important. And and improvisation, pantomime. So I've talked all those. So we can move ahead, Alexis. Casting. So this is really important. I think if we hear nothing else today, this is really important. Individuals with disabilities should be involved in the whole aesthetic of the piece as much as their character allows them to. Meaning that when they're on stage, they're not just always standing in the background waving. They always have to have the line. But it means that if it's a musical, if you're doing Three Little Pigs, the musical, and there is a dance number that their character is in, even if they aren't dancing is not their strength, but they're playing pig should be featured in the number with all of the other pigs. And we should find a moment for them to shine. We should motivate everything that they do so it makes sense for their character and makes sense for them to be part of the story, but they also need to be included. Theater, especially in educational settings, is about being included, keeping in mind that these individuals, more than likely, we hope not, somehow in their life they may have been excluded in other avenues of their life. And theater is a way for everyone to belong. So we have to find a way for us to belong. And I think that's something we're still learning. I just came off a production that I did, and I'm a professional actor. And the name of the piece is not important. But I had to advocate for my character to be a part of the final movement dancing number. Because choreographer thought that she didn't mean well, but we just saw things differently. And I had to sort of coordinate with the director to understand that the character should be in the piece and it should be in the life of something. And I'm older, so I have a voice. These individuals with disabilities are still finding their voice. So we as directors and theater makers must help them realize that they are just like everyone else, and they should be included in the life of what we're doing. And
Interestingly,
you also want go ahead.
Some of the kids that I've worked with in different productions have actually had a very unique take on things, and we've asked them, well, how do you see your character fitting into this? Or just, how do they think they could work it in? And interestingly, it's been so creative and so empowering for both them and the ensemble that it's an aspect you don't want to overlook. Just ask your actors how they feel they can fit in.
Well, and then if they come, I'm an actor that works with crutches. So there have been times where my crutches, you don't need to draw attention to them, but because I do a lot of fantasy work, we find a way to use the tools that we have and make them a part of the story. So I know, Sue, I'm putting you on the spot, but there are times where you use the artist's wheelchairs as part of the movement things that you do.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, sometimes it's been part of a spontaneous dance, or we've used the wheelchairs to draw through paint and creating lines on the floor. It's just been pretty interesting how we've been able to take and use those tools to enhance what's going on, and it just seems like it's a natural part of the story. So look to all those props as really unique aspects of a new creative way to show what you're doing.
You can advance, Alexis. All right. Yeah, and like as Sue was beginning to talk about, how can your individual shine? How can we create moments for them? So Sue was talking about using wheelchairs and paint lines on the floor. And again, I've just thought about this, but putting you on the spot, can you talk about the under the sea stuff you've done recently? I think there was also a baby shark thing that you did with wheelchairs and movement and things like that.
Yes. A group was going to be doing a production on stage for the end of the year show, and they were trying to find a piece of music and that would easily and smoothly kind of incorporate the wheelchairs. And so one of the ones we chose was Baby Shark. And so we used the shark and the sharks, the wheelchairs as sharks kind of in the water. We also did a piece in the new Mary Poppins movie. There's a song, I believe it's called Up There, and in essence, we created a backdrop that looked like the sky, and we put balloons, both real and ones that we had painted, on the wheelchairs, and we put that up on a PowerPoint, and then had a tree line on the stage line. And it looked like the wheelchairs were flying or floating in the sky when we were done. And it was just really a neat opportunity to create the illusion that the wheelchairs were flying by balloons. It was beautiful.
I think that's just a fine illustration of using the wheelchairs as the extension of the characters, and the balloons are characters. They help illustrate the piece, and that helps move it forward. Some people, I did a classroom sharing, so we didn't have the rights to this, of where the wild things are. And it was a group of students with medically fragile disabilities. So some of them were on feeding tubes. And we created the whole forest of where the wild things are with their wheelchairs. And then they themselves were the wild things. And so they were able to play two characters in one. Those are great for classroom sharing, but it can also be an extension of any play that you create. I mean, I've had gangsters in wheelchairs and guys in dolls and nonverbal artists playing chipmunks, in forest stories. It can be very rewarding, and we can create lots of other ways to stories. We can invent. So after we cast, say the one thing I say that I think bears mentioning, that when you finally make that casting decision and make it what's best for your ensemble, however you announce the cast, however you do it, I would make sure that I reach out to that individual and maybe their parent or caregiver to explain what their character is and crucial they are to the plot. Because again, that individual may have a different idea of what they want to do. It's important to integrate them right from the start. Creating that rehearsal schedule so that the individual with the disability is being utilized when they're there. I know that there are institutions that have full cast calls and the entire cast is there. It's important that that individual is there for those full cast meetings and ensemble games to really bond and their fellow castmates, because we all know that's part of theater. But when they're not needed, especially at the beginning of rehearsal, when it's a lot of blocking and things, when they're not needed, they should probably be allowed to go home, with the caveat, as you scaffold this experience, the closer we get to opening night, the closer that the more the families need to be there the whole time. And that's the thing, especially for parents and families and caregivers, that they should really know, is that it's not like the basketball team or maybe some other activities that meets once a week. It does sort of ramp up and have a beginning, middle, and end. They should understand that trajectory. Then creating a rehearsal schedule that sort of shows easily for the breakdown for them. And Sue, I'm jumping ahead here, but pictures are important, right? Especially for the parents use words and things, but sometimes pictures work better to understand when the individual needs to be at rehearsal. So Sue will talk a little bit about that later, or you can talk about it now, Sue.
Yeah, we'll
talk about the picture.
A little bit later, but what I was going to talk about is like a visual schedule of the rehearsal process. Sometimes the folks that are either new to being on the stage and being in theater don't necessarily know what the schedule is of the moment or the whole rehearsal. So one of the things you could use is a visual strategy, and I've got one here that I've created. And with this, I'm just going to do it in two things here. What it is a board that has these words that are Velcroed on, so that when the group arrives, they would know that this is the beginning of the schedule. And so the first thing we're going to do is groups and games and warm-ups. When that's done, you peel that off. And so as the different tasks of the agenda are accomplished, the group then knows how much longer or what the next expectations are for them, so they can anticipate how they can participate better in the rehearsal. Sometimes some of the folks you might be working with have difficulty transitioning, not only from coming from their homes or their classrooms into the theater space, but also just between activities. And this visual schedule might be a way to kind of help reduce some of that anxiety and to increase some self-control and focus as to what the whole group is doing and what they need to do to participate with the group.
Cool. Sometimes, and we as theater makers, we've done this for so long, and we might have trained our students or our general education students to know what it is, and then they train each other. But the individuals with disabilities, they just need more time. Sometimes we just need more processing time to create, to understand what's going on. So I always like to say, for me, who speaks a mile a minute, trying to think of everything in slower motion. If I just put things in just another, then that could help them get there. Cool. We can advance. So I think it's important. Read through, of course, beginning. We read through the play so that everyone can understand the story, the trajectory, what's going on. I think that it's really important, as much as we can, to give a pictorial sort of outline about what is happening on the stage and in the story. If you have set renderings or drawings that you have an idea of what it would look like during the process, even if you have an individual with disability in the room, or even if you don't, showing that as you're reading along and saying, this is what the opening of the play will look like when we enter this world. And then we transition here, using words to describe as well as, like I said, drawings or just thoughts and ideas, just helps an individual with a disability understand where they fit into the world of the play or what the whole idea is. Because sometimes we get so focused on what am I supposed to do? When is it my part? Well, we know that we can't get to your part until we get to others. So we scaffold the experience to help them understand where they're going and what they're doing. And then also, as someone if someone is new to theater, defining all of the terms that we use. That sometimes we have a second nature. What is blocking? Well, blocking is when we learn where we go on stage, and we move when we say this line. And well, what is tech rehearsal? Tech rehearsal is when we integrate all the lights and the sound and all the things that make a play. So just slowing that down a little bit and creating some visual elements to what that looks like helps someone understand. And you'll find that this really works with your general education students as well. They will be reinforced by or see things in a new way by having you do this. And then understanding that this is especially true for a nonverbal student. They need visual cues and understanding of how we create and how we move. And Sue is going to go into how we can help nonverbal students participate in theater.
Okay. Now, sometimes when the students are just starting in this process, it can be very overwhelming for them. And sometimes they may not know what to say or might be concerned about what they're saying. And sometimes we might want to use a transitional object, how we call it. And I ask you guys to all find a piece of paper, either 8.5 by 11 or a 9 by 12. Because what we are going to make, if you guys would get those out, we're going to make a puppet. Okay, this is something that can be done quite easily and quickly in the moment. And it might be a way for potentially the student to have the puppet talk about what their concerns are or their lines or something until they feel a little bit more comfortable in their own speaking of it. So what I'd like you guys to do is to take your paper. Okay, so we've got our paper, either 8, and we're going to hold it the long way. I'm going to back up a little bit here. Okay, and we're going to fold it into thirds as if you're going to be sending a letter. Okay, it doesn't have to be evenly folded. We're going to fold it like this. Okay, so it's in thirds. And we're going to fold it back on itself in half. And then fold each side up like this and like this. And the little pockets that are created on the inside here become your finger holds for your puppet. So if you'd like to take a half a second and decorate potentially your puppet or your alter ego or somebody, we can take that, and if we want, we can have people show them. I'll give you just about 2 or 3 minutes to do that. I can show you the process again. Taking your paper, folding it into thirds. Folding it in half. And in half again. Now the alter ego or this other character can either be related to the story or not. And it depends on what the student or the actor is more comfortable with doing. So a little mini in the moment puppet.
And if I can, I will give you time to make these. It can be in the show, or it can be a scaffold experience where the actor uses it for a while to speak, and then it can go away. But it can also make another dimension. I love the play. It can be a little helper, and then it can float away, kind of like a director on opening night. There, help, you create, and you slowly fade. The actors are able to work with it on their own.
Anyone like to show their puppets? Cute.
Ah, love it. Does it have a name, Julia?
No, not yet. I'll have to talk to her a little bit.
Sure, that's good.
Anyone else?
Don't be shy. Somebody. I think we can advance, Alexis.
Okay. Oh, who's there?
Oh, Emily and Andrew have nice puppets.
Oh, I can't see them.
Can't see them. That's great. You'll have to show that to me the next time we see each other, Andrew. Do a virtual puppet show for the next webinar.
There you go.
Emily said thanks, Emily. I'd love that. We can advance whenever you want.
Okay, sometimes some of the folks we're going to be working with have communication challenges that are not going to be able to be, utilized or enhanced through puppets, but you might need to consider using a voice output device. They might be called a VOCA, voice output communication aid. And if you're working in a school, you might have access to them through the speech and language pathologists. that are in the schools, or the students themselves might have voice output devices. Um, I know as an art teacher, sometimes what happens is that the voice output devices don't always come to the art room because they're afraid that the students are going to get paint or get them dirty or get them messy. But in the theater realm, it's an outstanding place for the student to be able to express themselves. So often, what happens is that if they don't have their communication device, which could also be a basic communication board, um, they really don't have a place to ask questions, to initiate communication, or to respond to questions or other kinds of things that are either being asked for by other actors or the director or possibly even the audience. So some of the different communication things you might want to consider are ones that are asking about help. What kinds of thing? I need some help. Can you show me again? I don't understand. Other ones could be words related to the theater experience, such as rehearse, exit, those kinds of things. Um, if you'll see on the bottom of the PowerPoint, there are little voice output devices, and these are called talking bricks. And what you can very easily and quickly do is change the information that is being communicated just by holding it, waiting for it to flash, and that quickly it can change whatever line or can change whatever the requester thing is. This may I have my line, please? Might be something that the device might be sitting in their pocket, or these particular ones are nice because they have a battery. I mean, not a battery, a magnet in the back of that. And so they can be put in maybe some very strategic places as part of your scene or your set that might cue the person to be able to know what there's the next line, or it might help them to be able to request some kinds of support. These particular ones come in a group of three, and I've got some information on there about where to purchase these. What I like about them is the voice quality is pretty clear, and when it is mic'd, it sounds pretty clear as well. And you see they are at this point in this day, the least expensive ones I found 45. But again, some schools might have these as part of their speech and language equipment. And the other one is a very small, it's called a talkabout communicator. And it's only 3.5 inches round. It's very small, but the clarity isn't that good that you would probably use it on stage. It would be better more so for rehearsals and things. But
Emily had a question.
yes. I support. Great. Have you used them, Emily?
Actually, it was the one right down. Is the bricks? Could the bricks only have one message recorded at a time?
Yes. There is another one that is called a step-by-step. You can record, I believe, up to 2 minutes. And each time you activate it, another line or another phrase happens. So if perchance you had an individual who was nonverbal, they could potentially have a step-by-step communicator, and it's through a company called, I believe, AbleNet. And you would just keep, every time you would hit it, you would get the next line and get the next line. And so you can, I think you have about up to 2 minutes of being able to record information on it. You can also record music. It doesn't just have to be, there's a lot of ways you can use it to not only communicate, but to engage the person with a challenge that requires that kind of a device to actively participate in the ensemble.
Cool. Any questions? Ideas? Cool. I think we can advance, Alexis. into the rehearsal process. So we want to be able to consider what the strengths, again, I'm a broken record, but what the strengths are for the actor and what do they need to be successful. So I think it's really important that we honor those things and we understand, I think it's important that the individual understands that when they rehearse, if they're rehearsing, if their play takes place in a forest, they understand that the forest is not going to be there at the at the first rehearsal, but there are things that are representing forest just like anybody would. But I think sometimes we get busy, and I know that I do. But can we just imagine that it's there? Well, they need something a little more concrete. There's some chairs that always represent your trees, some landmarks to help represent where they're going and what they're doing. That's really important. Also, uh, when you can, taping out the space, helping them understand how big and how small thing is, because spatial relationships sometimes are challenging for folks with developmental disabilities, where we can create entrances and exits, and how we envision how the director envisions the story is really important, and making that as concrete as possible. And then being able to sort of, as we add the real stuff, taking that stuff away and scaffolding the experience for them. That's ideal when we create theater with these groups of people in inclusive environments. And you'll find that it also helps your general population. Anything to add, Sue?
Nope. Oh, you're breaking up. There you go.
You hear me? All right, cool. Next slide. So we're knowing the environment to work in, and we practice stage directions. When I was a young actor, to be honest, I still have to stop myself between directing and acting, understanding my stage left, my stage right, my up and my down, even maybe from the actor's point of view on stage, if these individuals with disabilities are actors, taping out R for right and L for left, just to help them get started, and then being able to scaffold and sort of take those things away, just like you would a baby in a pacifier, although that's not the best analogy, weaning them off of that, because it also is a good tool to help them understand the other parts of life, how to turn right, how to turn left if they are working and they have to go give directions, or they're in a car, or even if they can drive later on in life. It was always a good practice for me as an actor, understanding my right from my left. So by the time I was driving with my hand controls or my specially made car, if that's something that your individual can do, there was practice there. So theater skills are life skills, really important. And then understanding the blocking at different speeds. Sometimes I think as directors we block things in chunks. An actor with a disability, if an actor without a documented disability can get it in 2 tries, the actor with a disability may need 1, 2, 3, 4 tries. And they may need to be able to block things in that chunk and then go back to the beginning of a section and trying again, because seeing things in succession or in being able to do it in sequence is helpful, I have found, towards the end of a process. Or it's helpful in the middle of a process, so by the time they get to the end, they understand what comes before and what comes after, and they're able to enjoy it too.
I was working with some set design for a theater group, and one of the individuals was very angry about getting her lines right, and if she was going to say things about the right time. And so what they did is they used her cell phone, and they put on music onto it, and they set like an alarm, so that when the music would, like when I set mine, it starts off really quiet and it gradually gets a bit louder. And when the music would get loud enough for her to hear, then it would trigger her to focus on doing a different kind of a movement and start moving to the other side of the stage. And it was really a neat way. for her to just have a little subtle cue other than someone giving her, a physical direction, that she was able to more independently, initiate her movement and what she needed to do. And she found that way out. She's the one that suggested that. That was pretty cool. She was another
Cool.
cue.
I'm reading Julia's question. Yeah, always can engage. I run a theater for individuals with special needs, and I always engage volunteers to help. In fact, truth be told, I have an army of volunteers at my theater right now doing that. So I would give these sort of thoughts to aides or other folks, not necessarily actors in the show, to help out. Once I give the direction or the sort of let's run this blocking, I do have an army of volunteers, or in some situations one or two, so that I can continue to do the job that I need to do. So, yep, I really create that space, and also make that person, if it's not a fellow student or a fellow actor, because we also know sometimes they're busy, we can just create a buddy there to help. Maybe they're in the show and maybe they're not. They're there. They can be that personal assistant.
Yep, certainly parents and or peer supports can really help in part of that process too. I know a lot of parents enjoy the whole theater process, and they oftentimes want to volunteer for specific kinds of things, and the plays tend to be something that they really want to be a part of, and they can see their child shine in such different ways than the other academic experiences they have during the school.
And sometimes I have found, because parents are great, sometimes when the student gets older to a certain age, they maybe don't want mom and dad around, but the best friend or the neighbor, but especially when you get to that high school age, having a fellow student, or even maybe having a few students who are, make that part of their role during the process, is to sort of help, because we all know that there are ensemble building games that sort of help create, and we all know that people helped us sort of get into that ensemble building, and so having a partner can help. There are lots of different ways to do that. We can advance. Characterizations. We all know as directors, depending on our style, we might give our students or our participants exactly how we want the character to be. We might give them opportunities to explore that character and come up with ideas. Depending on the student, they might need specific suggestions. How to become their character, how to make their voice really deep as the wolf. Or they might need to have you give them some examples, but keeping it the expectations to what you want, meaning that if you don't want them to copy something specifically, you give them a different variety of things to do. Or you give them time one-on-one or with their buddy to create these characters, if they can do it themselves. It just depends. If you have to be very specific, it's okay to be specific. But if they can discover something on their own, they should be given that discovery time like any other actor. But whatever time you give your general actors, your actors without disabilities, time to explore, you might need to add double the time for your actor with a disability, because it just takes that processing time. It just takes a little longer. Not a bad thing, just takes some time. So just build that time into your schedule. Pull some YouTube videos to help them and give them to families at home to try things out. And then give them time to work and play, but double the time. And then YouTube videos. I started running my theater company, I started recording certain aspects of rehearsals, especially dances and songs, so that they could take them home and listen and watch themselves on stage. Most people this population love to watch themselves on stage. So they see how they look and they see, oh, I do this and then I do this, or I can try to do this. And if you have notes to try, giving it to them not only as a group, but maybe one-on-one, and then reinforcing that with a buddy or a family member and giving them the YouTube video so the parent or family member knows what they've been working on and what they can do to make it even better. That's important. And the lines and the blocking together. It depends on someone's process. Sometimes you come in wanting your actors off book or without knowing each of the lines, sort of feeling out how the individual works. Be careful what path, what process they learn the lines and the blocking, because sometimes once they learn it, it's hard to unlearn or change things. So real specific or thinking about what you want depending on the actor or the young student so that you get the best performance out of them you can, and that they're not just playing the lines like a robot. We want to make sure that they're learning the lines, and I suggest learning the lines and the staging at the same time or committing them to memory at the same time, so that they are cohesive and that it gives them an opportunity to shine. And we talked about sound also. So you may advance, Alexis. All right. Considerations. VOCAs. We discussed VOCAs. And anything more about transitions, Sue?
I just really find that that's really a good way that everybody can really and experience that the theater experience in the same way, that listening for music cues. Music is kind of like the universal language, and so if you can kind of put music into things and use those as cues, it really does tend to equalize things quite a bit.
And also, I mean, we talk about in technical rehearsals, we sometimes, depending on the show, add sound cues later and add props, maybe the week or the week before, the week before. The more we can add those sound cues or let individuals know that the sound is coming so that they can plan to wait for it if the sound is their cue. All right, you're going to wait for the birds chirping before you come out. Here's what the chirping is going to sound like. The more you sort of have those tools at the ready, even if it's not the exact bird sound effect, you can help that individual be successful in what it is they do. And believe me, I know it's hard. I'm doing Sherlock Holmes right now currently, and it's hard to get all that music and coordinate all those. But if you try it, it can make things so much richer for the individual.
Again, as I mentioned before, that sometimes these experiences can be kind of overwhelming, for some of the students that we're working with. So we might need to kind of be aware that they might need more. Certainly you can use a voice output, and that they would be able to request a break, and maybe it's going off stage and observing for a while. Maybe it's sitting off stage or behind stage or going for a walk, just to kind of refocus and kind of get themselves kind of focused into what's going on, because it can be kind of overwhelming, both of emotionally and physically. And I think sometimes what happens is that we get so excited in the moment that we kind of forget that their processing is sometimes slower than other folks, and they may be a couple of steps behind, and they can end up with cognitive fatigue a half hour or so into the rehearsals and things. It can be really frustrating, and they don't know why. They're maybe starting to become agitated or frustrated for those kinds of things. So kind of being aware of the rhythm of your rehearsals and stuff, and when folks tend to be in their best kind of moods or participation modes, and then when things kind of need to kind of come down a little bit, take a break and recharge, and then kind of come back up. So getting
and that anyway, Julia's question about the buddy and volunteer is important, because as directors, we may not be able to see all of that.
Right.
We can sort of get a visual cue like, oh, we're going over here, and that way that person can go over and take care of what they need to do, and you can continue. And we all know that with our own cast, right? Even if you have a cast with no individuals with documented disabilities, you can look at their faces and go, I've overloaded them, or they're about to be overloaded. I have to take 5. And it's better for everybody.
Right. And another part of that too is creating a ritual that begins and ends your rehearsals. I think it's important to either have some kind of a warm up or a game, or maybe it's some kind of music or something that always begins that group. So when the individuals come to the theater or to the practice space and they either hear that music or they know exactly what's going to happen next. And then at the end of it, there's either some kind of closure or again, some kind of a ritual that they know, okay, this activity is done. Now I can transition on to my next piece. But that kind of builds that sense of community and sense of belonging when something is very expected.
Very true. Oh, my favorite rituals. Well, I always like uh, facial exercises for the opening, warming up our faces, um, making big faces, little faces, and just seeing what kind of movements our faces can do. And I love to pretend. I have something I call the marionette exercise because I love puppets, so we can kind of put strings on our hands and our head. How do we move? How can we move fast, slow? And then I think as theater educators, we've all done versions of where we take our body, stand up as straight as we can, then roll down, hang loose as we can without falling over. This is really great for individuals, especially with disabilities. They're practicing their balance. We can do these fast and slow and all areas of in between. Um, it may sound hard, but also tongue twisters are great to begin the rehearsal process, even if speech is not their first love, or it's something that they're they find hard to access. It's important to practice speaking clearly and distinctly. So practicing that, those are good opening exercises. And then right when you go into rehearsal, you want to be able to put on your character. So even if there is no physical costume piece, we can create that ritual of pantomiming. I'm putting on my gloves for the wolf, and I'm putting on my coat. And now for the next 45 minutes, I'm the wolf. And then at the end, we can practice taking it off and then shaking it off. And then I can leave it there at the theater and go home. That's the other thing. Sometimes if we're into it, especially the individuals with disabilities, they're so into their role, they don't know how to transition from to the role and in the role and out of the role. So that's real important. Shaking it off and saying, okay, we're going to leave it here, and then we'll come back to it tomorrow. Cool. All right. Anybody else have any questions as we're like 35 minutes left? How would you sell them on that idea? If you have a student actor with a disability, how would you sell them on that idea? Well, I like to make that somebody a shadow. There's a great technique, and I'll just jump into it now. The shadowing technique, and it was really used, it's not mine, for the ASL community to have ASL sign language on stage during a performance. In the traditional idea of shadowing, there is an interpreter who signs a role in costume or the costume piece behind the speaking actor. And I'm just going to put my computer down and try to show this. My friends Ernie and Bert here. Can everybody see? So here's Bert and here's Ernie, and I'll put them on. And if Bert is the actor with the special need, he can be behind or in front of Ernie. So Ernie can speak, and then Bert can be behind to speak as well. They can speak in unison or have, in pieces. So I will huff and puff and blow your house down. Ernie might say, I will huff and puff, and Bert would say, I will blow your house down. Or they can say it together. I make them characters in the play, the buddies, so that they're always there and present, but they're as integral to the play as anybody else. So I sell it on the fact that we're doing a new and innovative idea. And it takes a special person who really is an ensemble-based person, but we all know those artists, right? Who really do it because they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So that's how I sell them on the idea. It's something new and exciting and innovative. And then I find that once they do it, they would want to do it again. Yes, I would reach out to them before the cast list is posted and find a way to, so that it was something that we universally planned at the beginning. And I try to front load all of that as much as possible. That it doesn't come off like oh, it's just an add-on idea. Something that we always planned upon. It can really enhance something. Fantastic. Any other questions or thoughts? In advance. I think we've covered some of this. Hard time and changes in life are challenging. Sometimes individuals with disabilities like their routine. So we have to make this rehearsal process part of their routine. And it'll take a bit. Understanding the beginnings and the ends of things are really important. For some reason, I'm not able to read the second one. Sue, can you take that one?
It says overplan enough activities to keep things moving along. Sometimes some of the folks you'll be working with, they have little things that they do to kind of either calm themselves down, or that when things, but they can only handle so many things. And so sometimes they might also race through things. You want them to, you're maybe planning on them experiencing the potential character and the different characterizations of the character, and you're expecting that to take maybe 10, 15 minutes, and they're done in 5. And so try and figuring out other ways for them to have that theater experience. It might be, okay, now we're doing it by, in pairs. Now let's do it into small groups. Just to keep the activities kind of moving, because sometimes they can get very, especially persons who have challenges with focus. They may get bored very easily and think that they've accomplished what you've wanted them to do, when in fact you're wanting them to explore that a little bit more. So you might need to just change it up and say, okay, you've done a great job with this, but now let's take it a step further. What would it be? How would it be different if this now happened to that character, or this person now had to interface with somebody else? So just, if it might not necessarily be part of the play, but it might be part of helping that person understand the fullness of the character development. To try different characterizations. So kind of overplan so I don't get bored.
And then slowing down. Just we speak lines at a mile a minute, having them try things at different speeds. Having your entire cast do the scenes at different speeds can help the whole group make discoveries in the play that need to be made. But it can also help the individual with disabilities slowly catch up to where the other folks need to be, because that's going to take some time. And that's real important. And then just finding ways to model what you want them to do. But keep in mind, especially keeping that modeling age appropriate. So understanding that you can show them what you want them to do, but leave it open enough so that they bring their own things to it. I don't ever want 25 Frans running up on stage. I know if I do that, then I haven't done my job. But we want to be able to model in such a way that's age appropriate for them. And then just giving that extra time to practice, and then giving breaks to review. And making a break, I am guilty of this. A break with me, I've had to watch myself, is never a break because I'm still thinking and I'm still doing. Letting them just, if they need the break, have the break, not giving notes. It's something I constantly have to work on. A break is a break, not an opportunity to practice. Add that.
Good.
We can advance. My favorite part. We all know before Sue will talk, but technical theater is important, and the elements are important, and individuals with disabilities can be involved in that process, and you're all gonna be treated as something special here. So I'm gonna let Sue talk.
Okay. I'm an adaptive arts specialist, and part of that role is helping students with challenges, physical, emotional, socials, access their art making. And part of that, as I was, contemplating putting this webinar and stuff together, how we can figure out how to support you in developing your scenic elements, such as your backstages and your props and those kinds of things. And some of the things might involve potentially cutting, materials. And so you can see in the picture, I've got some scissors here. These are small little adaptive scissors. And these scissors have a loop on the back. Because developmentally, what we do first is we close our fists, and then we open our fists, and that facilitates the open close for cutting. Now, some folks don't necessarily understand that, either cognitively or physically, and so they don't know how to operate a scissors. And the loop on the back of the scissors helps facilitate and create muscle memory, help open and close scissors. This scissors is pretty small, and this is a larger pair. This is this is a loop scissors, another loop scissors, and this is a larger loop. And the way that this one works is that your hands go into the bottom, and then you cut like this. And you've got the loop in the back that kind of helps facilitate the cutting skill. Sometimes challenges deal with the size of the individual's hands. This is an oversized hand. It's a fist guard scissors that has a very large handle on it. Not necessarily identified as an adaptive scissors, but because the grip is so large, it does help for someone who possibly like guys who may have larger hands, or for persons with cognitive challenges who sometimes may have thickening in their hands, which makes it difficult for them to use a traditional scissors. I also see a scissors that I actually just got the other day, and it's called a right shears. Okay, and it's pictured in there, and you'll notice that it's got this angle on it. Okay, and it is designed to be used like this. So you would cut along a surface like this. And I haven't really used them yet, but just in my own practicing, there's a number of students that I'm currently working with who I think this would really be a pretty cool way for them to, engage in the cutting process. For folks that have possibly arthritis or can't rotate their arms very easily. So I'm even thinking of cutting up and other kinds of angles with it that you might not be able to do as easily with other scissors. The other tools that I have on there, you might not be able to see exactly what that little grip is, but this is a milk carton hand grip. It's made from the top of a milk carton. I cut the top of it off, and you can put a number of different into it. The tool that I have in there is an adapted brush, and you can kind of see that it probably doesn't fit all that well, so I could use masking tape to kind of, or I can also take pieces of newspaper or other materials and wrap them around like this and put that into the milk grip so that it has a tighter fit for the person to use. So when I put it into the grip, what happens is that it entirely changes the way that the individual holds on to the tool. You could hold it this way, you could hold it this way, a lot of different directions. And you don't have to just put that in there. You can put markers into it or any other kind of drawing, writing, painting tools. So as maybe the students are helping to design the sets or they're looking to help the sets, here's kind of the use of an extended roller. A very long one that it's a little bit wider, and so it goes through the tube a whole lot easier. And so when you put the handle on, you're more able to hold on and script and be able to paint your walls or paint your floors or your sets that way.
Cool.
Kind of following up along with that, props and are sometimes things that your students may need to kind of help either keep them engaged or to reduce their anxiety. And something like those can be, kept in their pockets, or they can be used, as part of a prop on stage. The kids there shows a scarf that's in the grip by putting it in to move the scarf around, and when you move it around, it's not going to fly off the individual's hand. Sometimes it's difficult grabbing up a scarf and moving with it. This way, if it's in a grip, you can more easily move it, place it down, and re-pick it up kind of quickly with position it. And then you the prep. Again, you've got your milk carton grip, and ice water, is part of your props. Well, if this is a grip that your individual is comfortable with, why not use it as a way to support the use of their props? So just some little adaptive things that can kind of help you be able to look at all aspects of the theater experience from the costuming and make backdrops.
Cool. Ready to advance? All right. So if we talk about this, when we get to Tech Week, I think it's important not to spring all the technical elements on our friends right away. So introducing it gradually, where the sound comes in, and what the set is, and as much as we have those in drawings or an idea, we can move things forward. And then we've got to show it, and then we want to involve the students in the building process, which we've already discussed. Let's continue. Oh, so there are other ways. I think we want to go to the next one, Alexis. Thank you. So we've talked about shadowing a little bit. Something I don't know if I coined this term. I use scripted improvisation. If reading is an issue, then we want to be able to help the individuals access their characters. So I've in the past taken a script and sort of broken it down, well, in acting terms, beats, and help the actor know, with a disability, know what the most important things in the scene. So first you walk up to the house as the wolf, then you knock on the door, and you huff and you puff and you blow the house down. And I talk them through it, and I have them improv it, in quotes, out with their actor. Maybe I'm giving them the line that I need them to say so that they can memorize it that way, and they scaffold the experience out. Maybe if there are 2 pages of dialogue, we do half of the first page, improv it out. Then we add on the half of the second page, and so on and so forth, to sort of improv it out until I can sort of see that they can do it all on their own with their partners or by themselves, whatever the situation may be. Then there's, of course, we all know those individuals that work well with improvisation. if you can trust them to just sort of work through the scene, improv it out to get the idea, and then move into the basic to get into the scripted lines. That's another way to do it, depending on your piece. I mean, today institutions do devised work, in which that would work. Sometimes it wouldn't work with your scripted work, so you just sort of have to sort of see what works for you. And then my favorite, because it's where I'm steeped from, drama. And for those not familiar, that's a process where there's a facilitator, there's a narrator, and the story sort of guides the individuals where they need to be, and then they can make up their own dialogue. I say, and I huff and I puff and I blow the house down, and then the actor would repeat it. would do this individually with a group of actors, maybe separate from the rehearsal process, to get the actor with the disability just sort of familiar with the scene. And then I would use myself as the narrator. Then I would gradually use myself as the narrator part of the time, and then I would let myself go altogether, and they would be free to fly on their own. And then I would integrate it back into the rehearsal process. Those are just some other strategies that I have used in the past, and they've all been helpful in the end in creating the product that I wanted to create. I've been disappointed with any of these strategies working in the final analysis. And we can advance. All right, so to end, in one word, well, I guess, Sue, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
All right. I guess we can ask for, is there any questions before we do this one word of what you think about inclusion? Any questions or burning things that we didn't answer that you wanted to have answered? All right. So then, in one word, what do you think about inclusion now? Thanks, Julia. There's no cheating. It's okay.
No.
It's doable.
Yes.
To do it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a buffet table, so you take from the buffet what works and you disregard the rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and work with others. Really find other folks that can help and support you. You've got the ideas, you've got the passion now to kind of move forth with things. Build that up within your actors and your support folks, who be it teachers, be it other students, be it parents, guardians, anybody to try and really make that experience just as incredible as you can for everybody involved.
And, yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It is a process, especially in educational theater. But everything is a process. And if I have a good process, then my product will be good. Not that the process won't change along the way, but if I have a good process, I will have a good product. Everybody feels good about what they're doing. And the next slide has our contact info. So feel free to reach out at any time and to tell us what you're doing or how we can help or other ideas you've had. Sue and I have been doing this together for a long time, and some of the ways that we sort of continue to grow and evolve is by taking what people have taught us in these workshops, and then we can create better. Thanks, Andrew.
Yes, thank you. I hope you'll find some ways to, the next time you're putting a show together, if you think about these things for everybody, it'll just kind of naturally fall in place that everybody will find a place in your theater ensemble and on stage to be just a wonderful part of your vision and the vision of your actors.
beautiful thing to see. Alexis, do you have anything?
I just want to thank you both for such a wonderful workshop this evening. Again, we did record it, so if you look back and you have questions that pop into your mind, definitely use their contact info to follow up. But we have a few more minutes, so if there are any pressing questions that you've just thought about, feel free to ask. But otherwise, we will call it a night.
Thank you for all your time.
Yes, it was great. Thank you for spending your evening with us.
Yes.
Remember that we're still here, and we are AATE. So, and if you're not a member, this is a great perk that members get. Love to have you join us.
So much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for this evening, and we will let you continue on with whatever hour it is and whatever zone you are in. And please look out for some of our other online workshop opportunities upcoming. So thanks again.
Oh, Elena has a question. Yes, I do
yes.
have resources for inclusion on drama class that don't focus on performance. Yes, and I think after seeing tonight, that is a whole other that's a whole other topic. But yes, I do. And Alexis, you have everybody's email, right?
Yes, we do. So we can share out whatever you want.
Share out, and I'm sure, make sure it's Elena. Elena, you and I can. I'd love to start a dialogue with you or anybody else, and then we can start there. And then I have some resources, and then we can create another webinar if that's where we want to go. Cool. Thanks, Mary.
Perfect. Well, I think we're about at time. So feel free to follow with their questions with their email addresses. But otherwise, sounds like we might have another one in the works. So we will see you again at that.
Cool. And then Alexis, I think Nora has a question that I think you can answer.
Okay. I didn't see that.
Will there be certificates or something for this?
Yes, we can definitely arrange that. So I will share that out when we send out the other materials.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night.